Have a Break, Have a KitKat follows a year in the life of two cousins processing grief for the first time. Nick has really recently just lost his dad. I think it's really important that we follow Nick's story because he kind of goes from the beginning of his grief to the year following his dad's death. And it's really interesting to see how that kind of goes, like the ebbs, the flows of it. And then on the flip side, we have Laura. She's been grieving the loss of a character for just over 5 years. I feel like most people identify with the idea that grief feels just as painful when you feel it, no matter what time you feel it. And neither of these characters have the perfect way of dealing with grief, and they just have ways of dealing with grief. So allowing Nick and Laura to have completely different arcs and completely different types of grief was really important, and I hope that audience members find something of truth between the two of them.
The play deals with grief, but in a very open way. Despite the pandemic, grief is always a part of everyone's lives, but since the pandemic it feels a bit more prominent and a bit more potent. It's definitely impacted the conversations we've had in the room, but also as well it's coming from a new writer who has their own unique perspective on grief to tell, and I think that's really important for theatres and for audiences. That's what I'm really interested and excited about, supporting, like grassroots scripts that come from a real place of authenticity, and really try to do justice to the subject matter without acting like they know everything about it.
I really wanted to tell the story because I experienced grief, as a lot of people do, and I just found that there weren't a lot of stories, be it on TV, be it on stage, that kind of explored that realm, especially from a younger perspective.
Just come on, have a sit down. Oh my god. So I'm in the first week of the R&D, and this week I'm mainly sort of facilitating script work in terms of developing certain sections, improvising around them, expanding certain bits, working out the language of the character and how his motivations coming into the scene might change what's maybe been written.
During that first week, Matt and I would work through the scenes with Luke's amazing direction, and then we go through and maybe improv a bit around that, think about character's intention, think about the aims of where it is in the script, and then I'd go home and I'd go dappy, 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 and I'd go edit it, and then the next day I'd come in and it'd be tighter, and we basically just repeated this until the end of the week, and the script was just 5 pages shorter, a lot conciser, and just felt a lot more true.
We're not arguing.
But she's over at yours all the time.
Yeah, to see Mum.
So it was really important to me to have like just 2 characters on stage, because these are the 2 characters that we explore who are processing grief for the first time. However, that doesn't stop other characters and things from appearing. So we hear like phone calls, we hear WhatsApp messages, we hear voicemails, we see videos. We just get so much of this sensory overload, because I think it's really important to show that we live in a very noisy and messy world. You know, when you're processing something, you want a bit of time to yourself, you want a bit of peace, you want a bit of quiet. And a lot of the time, we don't get that. We get notifications and we get phone calls and we get voice messages, and I kind of wanted to reflect the reality of that. So with Lavender's amazing skills, we've kind of built this wall of sound where whenever the characters kind of feel overwhelmed by their grief but they can't really process it, the sounds kind of come in and they bombard and they overwhelm, because I think it's really important to show the reality of that and kind of how that affects the processing and the kind of the quietness you need when you're going through the motions of it all.
Lord, I sent you a link to that Debenhams dress I was talking
Would you
about.
be able to pick up my tablets from
I'm
the
just calling
files?
to confirm your viewing next week.
The sound design has to be really carefully done. It can't be too overpowering, but also it has to be there with purpose and rather not kind of just an add-on. It needs to elevate it, and it needs to be kind of filled out in a way that helps the audience realise subconsciously what's happening through their heads. There's a lot of obviously words and spoken dialects and narratives, but there are points where you can't really put into words what grief is, and you can't really say what those feelings are, and I think that's where I come in and kind of demonstrate that through a soundscape.
Free press it this way.
Oh my god.
Laura, come on, let's just speak.
Fuck off, don't come near me.
Why? Come on.
No, fuck
Please.
off.
So the first week was sort of much more so focused on the directing and sort of allowing space for improvisation and allowing space for conversations and sort of facilitating that as a director, before allowing Bronte to kind of go away and do the edits and sort of focus on how she really saw that play developing. And then the second week was slightly less of the dramaturgical element and more of like directing and sort of working out with the actors how we wanted to bring the scenes to life on stage, building towards the sharing on the Friday on the last day.
Go somewhere quieter.
My sister's death is not a fucking anecdote. It's not your thing to tell. Like, it's not yours.
We came in on the second week, so we'd already had kind of a rough script that was sent to us.
So the script was changing right up until the day before of our first day. So to get it kind of turned around in 4 days rehearsal and then do a show, it was challenging, but it was very fun.
We got the script on the Sunday ready for the week. And there was quite a lot of changes, which was really nice to see. And yeah, we just spent the first 4 days going through that.
I just got concerned when you said that you were right where she left you.
It's not a bad thing though, staying.
It was quite quick, but it was nice to get it up on its feet on the Friday and actually see it in the space and do all of the movement that goes around it. And I think it kind of gave us an insight of what it would be if we were saying like if we'd had a bit longer and we'd put this into production, how amazing it would be.
I think we got some really positive feedback, especially people who'd seen like earlier versions or like the very first sort of scratch scene and stuff. Spoke about the development that had gone into it and could really see how Bronte's writing had like, I think she's used the phrase, had been like cleaner, really get into the heart of each scene. And we got some really welcome, like constructive criticism on it as well, which I think, you know, for this sort of R&D is exactly what you want.
I saw it when it was in R&D a couple of months ago, and it's really come on since then. The characters feel really real.
Really interesting storyline, the narrative, having two characters and then this sort of ensemble piece that we don't actually see was really powerful and interesting. The Brechtian style that they did on stage really drew me in. All the props that you could see and all the use of the boxes, really fantastic.
A very personal thing, grief, and it got me emotional because it reminds you of what you've been through at times. So it's amazing, it was amazing.
And the subject line is handled in such a unique, personal, really sensitive way, but you really get the heart of the characters and what the characters are about.
Just seeing it on its feet in like a different sort of space, yeah, just sort of helped me see it in a slightly new light as well, and see it and open up sort of new avenues of like interesting things we can do, I think.
I think what I really wanted to share with Laura is that it doesn't really matter how long someone's gone, it can still affect you in a lot of different ways, and it can, someone's anniversary, for example, it might hurt you 10 years down the road or 5 years down the road, and that's okay. She wasn't really dealing with it in the best way, but that doesn't mean to say that it's the wrong way.
No way is right or wrong. You can deal with it however you like. Grief will affect people in different ways.
They're both really deep in it. And that there's no right way of getting out of it or learning to live with it. And I think that's part of the problem, that with all art that looks at these sort of subject matters, it tries to offer an answer, or it tries to say that it's so abstract and so big that people sort of switch away from it. Whereas for us, I think it was important to look at how this breaks down and feels really normal and naturalised.
It just tastes better.
It's the right chocolate distribution.
It is the chocolate distribution.